This refers to the paperwork that we need to have and keep for each processing. And this is posted, we can look at, like, I filed things better so that this stuff should be able to be easily found. There should be a hard copy of everything we need in the file box in the office. Between Maggie, Jasmine, and I, we can, you know, share the responsibilities of getting those always stocked. Because part of the problem of filling out this paperwork is the files not being accessible and not having them. Kill day, we need a lot more. We need a before we begin sheets for the kill room, cooler, and eviscerating. We need the processing schedule, you know, which notes any incoming birds or affidavits. We need a pre-op checklist. We need an operational checklist. We need our CCP documentation, which is our zero tolerance, our giblet temperatures, our whole bird temperatures, and we need job assignments. There's job assignments for people to take the temperatures, and there's job assignments for people to watch the people take the temperatures. You know, at the bottom of these temperature sheets is like your direct observations. It's called direct observations. And that's somebody initialing with the time that they watched the person that's taking the temperature and they did it right.
Can that person be another fellow processor?
Yes. Then we have the packaging day paperwork, which is, again, before we begin, we only need the pre-op, the time temperature log, and the operational checklist. For grinding, we only need the grinding log, the pre-op check, the operational check, the ground meat temperature log. We do have it before we begin here too. Before chicken goes out, I have to fill out a thing called a pre-shipment review. So this basically has to happen on Thursday because it's really about once the birds have been packaged. So this happens like Thursday night because it has to be done before any product leaves the facility. And this talks about this, you know, all monitoring records contain actual value, time, date, and initials, yes or no. And so I have to look through all this stuff. So that's where this comes in. I mean, these before we begin, we don't actually really use them, but I'm using that technique to make sure that we're going to pass the pre-op. You know, that's what the before we begin sheets are all about. So here's a harvesting day pre-op sheet. So this kind of lists all the things that they care about in terms of being clean. The way this is written is a plant manager or designee performs a pre-operational sanitation to ensure plant cleanliness and employee hygiene before production starts. And the way this is written is saying, is there a deviation, yes or no? If there's a deviation and that yes is circled, it means that something is not right with, you know, associated with whatever line we are. And if it's circled, then it needs to have a note about what it is. And if we do this and we catch things, that's fine. Like, this is not about being perfect. We are humans. We make mistakes. We forget things. That's fine. But this is used as a tool for us to be able to find it and fix it because the inspector is going to do a pre-op. He's going to do one on Thursday or Wednesday. He might not often do one on Thursday. Like, they don't do pre-ops all the time. You know, they have a million things they have to inspect me for. They don't always do a pre-op. But if they do a pre-op and they find a deficiency, I'm in trouble. You know, then I get a non-compliance. If you get consistent non-compliances, consistently the same person over and over and over and over again doesn't wear a hairnet over and over and over again, then it would be a problem. And if I catch it and correct it, it's not a problem. If they catch it and correct it, it's a non-compliance. Again, still not that big of a deal, but if I'm getting the same non-compliances over and over and over and over and over again, it will become a problem. And they're going to give me reports about non-compliances and then I fix them. But I certainly don't need them telling me that somebody isn't wearing a hairnet because I know that. I know people do. We all know we need to wear a hairnet, you know? So I don't want to get non-compliances for, you know, things like, you know, stupid things like that we already know that we need to do. But that's the pre-op sheet, and this has to be filled out before we start. And then we have the operational sheet. Again, like if you're always getting no's because the operational sheets are never filled out, it's a problem. And every time I have a no, then I have to write a corrective action report. So then I write a corrective action report. What is the problem? It's an operational log. This is the date. It's a problem because the operational log was not filled out. Well, what did you do to bring it back under control? Make sure the job is delegated to an individual that knows how to fill out the operational log. Determine measures to prevent the recurrence. We're going to train and we're going to delegate. Is the product safe? it's safe. I'm going to assume the operational thing would have passed. It always does. We just didn't fill out the paperwork. What steps, if any, are required to recondition the product? I'm saying nothing. The product was fine. We just didn't fill out the paperwork. Does the product need to be destroyed? No. It doesn't need to be destroyed. I just didn't fill out the paperwork. But, like, if I don't have that paperwork, again, it's to my protection. Like, they can challenge me. They could be like, oh, well, how do you know that the room temperature was below 55 degrees? I don't have proof. So it goes through that pre-shipment review, and that kind of goes through these questions, just making sure all monitoring frequencies are met. Yes. Product temperature requirement was met. Yeah, I look at the whole bird temperature, I look at the organ temperatures. Yes, they were met. All CCPs were monitored and critical limits were met. Yes. Appropriate corrective actions were taken and recorded. Yes. All labeling requirements are met. Yes. Then they ask you to also verify, were the thermometer calibrations performed? Direct observations were made when applicable. No, because we do not do that, but we need to start doing that. And that's what I was talking about, people watching other people do the job. Again, like, there's a lot of this verification in the first 90 days. After that, I write up a description and be like, look, the same person takes the temperature every single week. I only need to watch them take the temperature once a month. Or if somebody new starts taking the temperature, and then I need to watch them. If they're doing it just fine, I don't need to do this all the time. And then all records were reviewed prior to pre-shipment. Yes, they were. This is the product. This is the lot number. It's fine to go. Because if I look through these records and we find that the birds weren't down to temperature, they're really not fine to go. And I don't know what really happens in that situation, but hopefully that doesn't come up. Those organs being down to temperature and the birds being down to temperature, those are our two guidelines, that we have to have temperatures done. The rest is just like making sure that the cooler temperatures and the freezer temperatures and all of that, where they're stored are down. And even the processing, once we verify that, or the cutting and packaging, once we verify that this room temperature is keeping these birds at the temperatures we need to keep them at, we will not need to take so many product temperatures. The critical controls are those birds getting down to temperature in enough time, and the liver keep getting down temperature at the time. Once they're down to temperature, they shouldn't ever come back up to a temperature that there's bacteria is going to be a problem. So it's really day one of killing, which is the temperature taking issue. And after day one, it's just maintaining the room temperature and maintaining the cooler temperature, and that should be good enough.